I'm Beck and welcome to my twice a year tag. I do this tag every April and every August, and it's a way for me to check in on my reading goals and reassess what I might be reading and what goals I want to stick to. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. There's only a short amount. The first question is, how many books do you think you're going to read this year? And after reevaluating all of the books I've read so far, I'm up to about 52 or 53, and I set my goal for the entire year as 50. So clearly I've surpassed that one. I think I might aim for about 65 to 70, just in case my reading slump goes in and out. I'm a little bit slumpy at the moment, and that generally happens around July, August. So hopefully that passes and the magical readathon helps motivate me and pull me out of this reading slump. So we'll see what happens. Question 2 is, have you made a specific reading goal or target that you want to check in with and keep track of this year? And I've made several different kinds, and I track it all on my emails, in my draft emails. So really, ultimately, my series is a major thing. I've tried to continue series wherever I can throughout this year. I've accidentally continued a whole lot of Tessa Bailey books, and I didn't intend to. I read mostly sci-fi and fantasy, but clearly romance has taken a front seat this year. So I'm on her third hot and hammered book, which is Tools of Engagement. I skipped the middle one because I DNF'd it, but I really enjoyed the first one and I'm enjoying this one. And I've read a few more of her works this year as well. So that is an accidental series, I guess you could say. But honestly, the series that I am most proud of, the fact that I finished this year, is the Chorus of Dragons series. Ruin of Kings is book 1, and I finished the entire quantuplet? I can't remember the word for 5, but it's a set of 5, and they are all as chunky as this one. There's like 700 plus pages per book, and I somehow annihilated this series. So I'm very proud of myself. Let's just ignore the fact that I clearly have been reading Dresden for a very long time, and I've refused to just pick it up because Dave is also reading the series and he's not in a reading mood. He goes in and out of reading moods every 6 or so months, and I've been trying to motivate him and he hasn't. So I might end up just starting again, given that I'm taking a massive commute to and from work and I've got all the audiobooks. Why not? Honestly, I can refresh my memory and hopefully motivate him all over again. And that way I'm not leaving a massive series that I've enjoyed so far waiting for me to finish it. Well, get up to date on it because it's not finished, but I'm going to take this as a win and just ignore my failures with Dresden. Question 3 is, how many 5-star books have you read so far this year? And I've only got a very small handful, unfortunately. One of them would be Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which unfortunately I continued because yes, it's a series, so yay, I continued. The unfortunately part though is that it wasn't as good and I wish I hadn't continued. It's a very captured story in the first book, so if you're going to pick up Octavia E. Butler, maybe don't continue. Just stick to Earthseed book 1. And it was an incredible post-apocalyptic story, and it's like if it was our world but kind of on the cusp of an apocalypse. Not with zombies. These very addictive, influencing drugs came out and so many people got addicted. And some people who were born from these drug users have these abilities that are like sympathy. So when they see someone else experiencing pain, they experience the injury as if it's their own. And that's what our main character has. I think they're called sharers. It's about her trying to grow up in this almost apocalyptic world where violence is definitely prevalent, and she's got to hide the fact that she's a sharer. And she lives in this walled community of people, and she's learning and teaching because a lot of the community and a lot of people in general in the world don't know how to read anymore and don't know how to write. So it's a world where you can still get different supplies and grow your own fruit trees and that kind of thing, but it's not as healthy, I guess, as our world is in terms of education. So it's a really dark and interesting thematic book, and I absolutely loved it, but it's written in the 90s and it's scary how applicable to today it is. But a lighter book that I read that's also 5 stars that was completely new to me, because I've done a lot of rereads this year so far that have helped my motivation, but a new book that I discovered that I absolutely love is Wolfsong. This is an urban fantasy male-male romance story, and it's the first in the series of books set in Green Creek. This one follows Ox and Joe, and Ox has got a very negative relationship with his father because his father is quite abusive. And at the beginning of the story, Ox's father is leaving and he says that Ox will never be worth anything. And that sets Ox up, because he's just a very young child when that happens. So that's kind of sets Ox up as being a very quiet character, very introspective, and not a very self-loving character. So he goes on this journey of self-discovery through meeting Joe and Joe's family and them bringing him into the fold and becoming like his found family. And the family does the same to Ox's mother as well. So it's not a case of taking him away. The they're literally just across the street, but it's about almost adopting him in their ways, and his mother as well. And obviously there is something that's not normal about this family, and that is that they are werewolves, which is kind of obvious given that the title is Wolf Song, so I don't consider that a spoiler. So it is a brilliant story. It is so emotional, and I'm trying to give myself space from reading it so that I can go into it again and re-experience the raw emotion that I felt when I read it. It's just so beautiful. I loved it so much. Question 4 is, what is a popular book that you own that you have not read yet? Usually my answer for this is the Day of Fallen Night book by Samantha Shannon, given that that came out in February, and I have tried reading it on audiobook and then immediately put it down because I couldn't do it. So I think I need a bit of distance before I pick it up again. So instead of naming that one specifically as the only answer to this question, I'm going to hold up Frugal Wizard's Guide or Frugal Wizard's Handbook as a guide to medieval London or something. I decided not to look at the title, and I looked at the camera instead to see if I could get it right. It's such a complicated title. I think this is going to be an urban fantasy romp that is rife with humor, but because I don't love Brandon Sanderson's take on humor all of the time, I think I'll either love this or I'll struggle with it. And that is why I haven't opened it from the plastic yet, because I haven't made myself motivated enough to pick it up. I'm worried that I'm going into, like I said before, a reading slump, and I don't want this to influence the reading slump. So when I'm a bit more motivated and a bit more uplifted, because it is winter as well, so it's very gloomy and everything, the atmosphere is not quite right. So when I can finally pick this up, maybe in the later months of this year, because in Australia that becomes summer, it might be beneficial for me. I also thought I should mention these two, Loveless and I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman, given that season 2 of Heartstopper is coming out in August. I'm so excited about it, by the way. It's going to be my whole new personality. I feel like it's going to actually alter my brain chemistry in the best way. But these ones I've said I was going to read months ago, and it never happened. I think it's because I know they're YA, and so I've been putting them off. So they're books I said I'd read this year and I haven't followed through, so shame on me. Question number 5 is, do you want to reread anything in the next few months? And that is a massive yes for me, because I'm currently rereading the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb and rediscovering how much I adore this series. Obviously I've read it before, but not for like over a decade. So reading it now as an adult is blowing my mind. It blew my mind back then as well, but it's just an incredible story, and I've described it before as cozy fantasy, and I think that is a valid assessment, but it's not the only way to describe this story. I say cozy fantasy because it takes you by the hand and leads you through Fitz's life at Buckkeep Castle. And so it feels like you are actually living there as well. And it describes a lot of the cozier places in the castle. One of the main places, because Fitz is a bastard son, so his reputation is really frowned upon and he's very much ostracized and isolated. So because he's by himself a lot, he ends up going to the kitchens instead of the main hall to eat his meals. And that's where a lot of the soldiers reside. So it's a very cozy place because the fireplace is always going. There is always hot, freshly baked bread. There's always stew on the stove that the cook leaves fresh for anyone coming through. So the fact that he's there, or he's at the stables in warm hay with the horses and the puppies, I'm like, I want this life. I want to be here. I want to eat the bread and the cheese and play with puppies my whole life. Like, that is amazing. So because I feel like I could be in this story, that's why I describe it as cozy fantasy. Although it does have a lot of politics and intrigue attached to this story because of the nature of Fitz's learnings and kind of the underhanded way he's learning about politics kind of in the background of everybody else. So I'm trying not to give away too many spoilers, but this is an incredible series, and my favorite character of all time gets introduced in this book, and it makes me so happy. Anyway, I need to stop talking about Robin Hobb for now. Question 6 is, what new release are you anticipating for the second half of the year? One of them would definitely be Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. I've been waiting for this one for so long. I just love queer romance. There is a new book in the Wolf Song series, so the Green Creek series, coming out in August, which I'm amped up for so much. So that would definitely be one of them. That comes out on the 8th of August and it's called Raven Song. So I am going to snap that up as soon as it's available. Of course, there is also Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is the sequel prequel to Legends and Lattes. It's another cozy fantasy story that's usually very compact. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. It's going to bolster my reading because it's so short and also make me happy. Another one that is going to bolster my reading is the next volume of Fence, which I think is volume 6, called Redemption. And I think that comes out in September, but I could be wrong. I was also really looking forward to the next book in one of my favorite series at the moment, which is the Silver Under Nightfall series. That's one of the best books, in my opinion, ever. And its sequel, Court of Wanderers, was supposed to come out in October, but that is no longer happening. So that is coming out in April. So I'm sad. And then we've got question 7, which is what book are you planning to pick up next? And do you think you're going to give it 4 stars or above? And I hope I am. I mean, I'm reading Robin Hobb, and I don't want to say I'm currently reading this because when I'm filming this compared to when I'm posting this, I'll probably be reading different things. But Robin Hobb takes a while to get through because you don't want to rush her. So I think I'm still probably either going to be reading Royal Assassin or the 3rd book in the series. So definitely Robin Hobb, but also I've realized that I'm currently reading 3 books and I don't know if I'm going to give them 4 stars, and I think that's why I stopped reading them. One of them is Battle Mage, which is an adult fantasy that's multiple perspective. I think there's 3 different characters that are the main ones. Then I've also got A Man Called Ove, which is a more literary fiction story, and because I'm not super into literary fiction, I did try and find this at my library as an audiobook and they don't have it, which is very frustrating given how popular it is. I was like, maybe I could listen to it instead of physically reading it so I can physically read more of my fantasy books. No, that didn't occur. Very frustrating. So this one has been parked for a little bit longer. And then lastly, I've got The Shadow Cabinet by Juna Dawson, and this one came out like in July, I think. And because of its new release nature, I was hyped to read it, but I don't think that I'm going to enjoy it as much as I initially thought, just based on how this narrative is developing from one of the plot developments in book 1. I just don't like where this is going, and I'm really worried that that'll mean that I won't like this book at all. So I've put this one down temporarily as well. These are the 3 books that I'm probably going to consider currently reading, even though I haven't actually been reading them. I should probably read them. There's also probably a few books that I've put on TBR videos that I've not ended up reading either, just because I got distracted by mood reading and read something else. So there's probably a whole video content idea in here somewhere, but that also puts pressure on me because it means I actually have to read them. But on that personal shaming note, that is the book tag. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know down below if you have participated in this tag. It is a fun one. It's pretty short. Let me know if you do it. I would be over the moon and overjoyed to see other people participate. But thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.